Hello everyone! Today I will be doing a review of the Blue Bird Lenormand deck, which is pronounced Lenormand, I think, in French. So because it is a French-based deck, I wanted to try and include the way you say it in French, but I apologize if I totally butchered it, because I probably did. So getting into this deck, I really am excited about this deck because this is actually the only Lenormand deck I have, but it's not going to be the only one that I have in my lifetime because I definitely really like using Lenormand decks. Now, getting into a Lenormand deck, if you don't know about these, they're not tarot cards and they're not oracle cards. And that might seem confusing because if you didn't know that there was a different kind between tarot and oracle, I didn't either until I found these cards. And I can't even remember how I found out about them. I must have done some sort of search online for tarot or oracle something and then came across this and I was like, what the hell is that? But if you don't know about Lenormand, I would highly recommend going down to the site that I'll link down below that kind of explains what Lenormand is and stuff like that. It's been a really helpful site for me when I got into this. But getting into the deck itself, I want to quickly go over this so that you guys aren't listening to me blabbering on and on about this deck. So the box and the cards itself are actually fairly tiny. I have really big hands. My hands are 8 inches from the tip of my fingers to the base of my palms. So these are maybe about, I would say these are standard playing card size. So I would say it was probably about 3 inches tall and then maybe 2 inches across. And they're really not that big at all. The box itself is a sturdy cardstock, but it's not so sturdy that you're not going to have wear and tear. I've had these a little under a year and you can see that there's some wear and tear on the box, and it doesn't hold up that well, but if you are really careful with it, it will. You just have to understand that it's not a super sturdy deck like with regular heavy cardboard boxes like with oracle decks and stuff like that. So getting into the box, we'll just open this up. So in the box itself, it has a tiny little book that's the same size as the cards. And honestly, the people on the site that I follow said to just throw these books out because they're not super helpful. I find it helpful when I'm kind of looking for a quick answer, but I've honestly only used this book once. I usually refer to the website. So just keep that in mind. You might not even need this, or you might want to keep it like I did just for future reference. But it kind of goes over like each card and what the card can, like its general meaning. And what I say by general meaning, I'll get into a little bit later. But going into this, it kind of goes over the biography of the person who created the deck, which was a woman back in France in like 1772, like Marie Antoinette time. I don't know how accurate this is, so I'm not going to go super into it. But I thought it was super interesting, even if it's fake. So I will have to do more research on that front to see how accurate that is. But you can look up history of Lenormand decks and stuff like that if you're curious. So going into the deck itself, it's kind of a glossy card deck. It's like standard playing cards again. So it has the same kind of cardstock. It's not super flexible, but it is flexible enough to shuffle if you wanted to. They're just, when you get all of them together, they're fairly sturdy, so just be aware of that. It's not going to be as easy to shuffle as a regular card deck. The sides aren't gilded, so if that bothers you, just keep that in mind. And then it has a pretty bird design on the back with some filigree around, which is really cute. There are 36 cards in this deck, and each card kind of goes with a playing card as well. So if you're familiar enough with a Lenormand deck, you could probably use a regular playing card deck to read the cards. I just am not familiar enough with it to do that, even after using it almost a year. So these decks do take a while to get used to. It's again different from tarot and oracle, so just be prepared to learn something new if you want to get into this. But once you do, the readings can be really, really spot on. I've heard people say that this deck can get down to a person's eye color, their occupation, and their hair color and stuff like that. So I think that's really cool to have in a deck. I don't know how accurate that is. I know that when I've been doing readings, sometimes occupations come up and things like that seem to be accurate, but I can't speak for knowing someone's eye color or something like that other than just visions that I get as a psychic anyway. So getting into the cards themselves, there are standard cards that go with Lenormand. So there's the letter cards, the mice card, the tower card, moon, sun, ring, lilies, heart, mountain, clover, snake, gentleman, and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into every single card because we would be here for a while. To put it as simply as possible without getting too complicated, pretty much every card plays into the other card. So it's really hard to just read the ship card by itself without having another card next to it to kind of help you understand why the ship card came up. So just keep that in mind. This isn't really super easy to give tiny readings with. A lot of people usually use the Grand Tableau layout, which uses every single card in this deck. So that's all 36 cards. So just keep that in mind. It's not as easy to do small one card readings like an oracle would. But if you are up to the task of pulling more than one card for people, this is a really cool deck to use. I really, really like it. The only thing that I wish there was is I wish there was more gentleman cards and more women cards, because if you're doing a reading for, let's say, a same-sex couple or something along the lines of a situation that's similar to that, you're kind of stuck being like, oh, well, there's only a boy and a girl card, you know? So it does kind of make it complicated. I know that there has been some decks who've added more gentlemen and more women cards, so I think that's really cool, but I don't have one. So just keep in mind that this deck doesn't have more than one gentleman and women card. Granted, there are, you know, gentlemen and women on the cards themselves, but I don't know how that would necessarily play in because those cards have their own meanings and stuff like that, whereas the current cards simply mean this is a man. Overall, as a deck, I really, really do enjoy this deck. It's one of my favorites to use, even though it was really complicated to understand getting started. But once you get started and you start learning about it, it's really fun to use, and it's really good to have for, you know, a year layout if you want to see what might happen over a year and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. It might be a fun deck to have in your collection. This really wasn't that expensive. I got it on Amazon, and I'll leave the link to this deck specifically in the description down below in case you guys want to check that out. But if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. And if you guys have any questions about this deck, I'll try my best to answer them, but you can leave them in the comments down below. Again, I wouldn't say I'm an expert on the Lenormand decks or anything like that, so you might have better luck having someone who knows more about Lenormand to answer those, but there are a couple people on YouTube that I've found who are more knowledgeable about these decks, which have helped me a lot. So I would definitely look that up and see if you can find someone who understands them more, but with what I've done with this deck, I've really enjoyed it. So I hope you guys found that helpful, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!